Beneath the noise of everyday life lies a story older than civilization itself. A story that threads through the dust of Mars, the temples of Babylon, and the altars of modern power. It is the story of the hidden architects of human destiny, those who shape religion, history, and the illusion of freedom we live under today. In this journey, you'll discover how ancient bloodlines may have come from beyond this world, how their knowledge seeded empires, shaped faiths, and constructed the invisible cage that holds the human mind. Stay with this story until the end, because what begins as ancient myth will unravel into the world you live in right now. And if you find truth in what's revealed, consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this message, so more can awaken to the power hidden behind the veil. Now, let's begin. For centuries, humanity has looked up at the red planet and felt an inexplicable pull, as if some part of our collective memory was buried there, waiting to be remembered. Ancient myths called it the planet of war, the realm of the gods, a celestial battlefield that once raged with life and light. But what if Mars was not just a mythic realm? What if it was once a living world, devastated by a cataclysm that also shaped the destiny of Earth? Modern science now admits that Mars had water, rivers, and an atmosphere, the very elements needed to sustain life. Yet something happened. A force beyond comprehension tore that world apart, leaving behind a silent wasteland of red dust and stone. The question that divides researchers is not if Mars died, but when. Was it millions of years ago, as mainstream science insists, or could it have been mere thousands, within the memory of our most ancient legends? Look closer at the myths that survived the flood. Stories of the great cataclysm, of lost civilizations, like Atlantis, of gods descending from the heavens after their world fell. They all whisper of the same event, a cosmic disaster that shattered not one, but two worlds. If Mars once hosted life, and that life perished suddenly, then perhaps those who survived looked for refuge elsewhere, on the planet next door. And maybe, just maybe, humanity itself is the echo of that migration. Some researchers, including the controversial and the brave, suggest that what we call the white race, or at least a branch of it, may trace its ancestry to this lost Martian civilization. After the destruction of their world, they settled in the Near and Middle East, the cradle of our earliest empires. There, they brought with them symbols, mathematics, and architecture that mirrored the geometrical structures once found in the region of Cydonia on Mars, the site of the so-called face and its surrounding pyramids. The patterns of those Martian formations align with uncanny precision to the layouts of Earth's ancient monuments, from Avebury in England to the pyramids of Giza in Egypt. And that is no coincidence. Even the ancient Arabic name for the Giza Plateau translates to Mars. The Sphinx, the pyramids, the geometry, all speak the same silent language, carried across space and time by beings who refuse to let their knowledge die with their world. From that ancient migration emerged the Phoenicians, a seafaring people whose influence silently shaped the course of civilization. They were master navigators, astronomers, and keepers of sacred symbols. They carried the flame of a forgotten science, the science of geometry, vibration, and celestial alignment. They were the inheritors of Martian memory. As they spread across the Mediterranean and into the Atlantic, they built their temples upon these same energy lines that once powered their world. Their symbols, the red cross, the white horse, the swastika, the lion, were not just cultural ornaments, they were encoded fragments of a cosmic inheritance. They built stone circles and monuments across Britain, Ireland, and France that mirrored the planetary alignments of Mars itself. Even the Uffington white horse carved into the hills of England echoes the sacred emblems of the Phoenician religion, a mark of their presence and purpose. These ancient builders understood something we've long forgotten, that energy flows through the earth like blood through the body, and that by aligning structures to these lines, you can alter consciousness itself. Stonehenge, Avebury, the great earthworks, they were not primitive attempts at art or ritual. They were parts of a planetary machine, a circuit board of power. The more you trace these connections, the clearer it becomes. Mars was not just a planet that died, it was a seed of knowledge transplanted onto Earth. And those who carried that seed, the survivors, became the architects of our civilizations, the founders of our religions, and the origin of the bloodlines that still rule the world in secret. They encoded their legacy in stone, in myth, and in symbol, so that only those initiated into the ancient mystery schools could ever read it. And through the ages, as the great cataclysm faded into legend, the truth became hidden beneath the layers of religion and empire. But the bloodlines remembered. They remembered the fall of Mars. They remembered the science of vibration and energy. And they remembered that control over knowledge was control over humanity itself. Every ancient temple, every cross, every lion, every rising sun you see in modern heraldry, all of it stems from this inheritance. A legacy of power passed down through millennia, wrapped in religion, protected by secret societies, and hidden behind the illusion of faith and progress. The Martian story is not just about where we came from. It's about who still remembers where we came from, and how they've used that knowledge to build a system that keeps the rest of us in ignorance. For when a civilization forgets its origins, it forgets its purpose. And that amnesia has been our greatest captivity. After the storms that silenced Martian scattered its survivors among the stars, a remnant of that once radiant civilization took root upon Earth. They became known in later ages as the Phoenicians, sailors, merchants, and mystics who mastered the oceans as easily as they once had mastered the heavens. History remembers them as traders in cedar and purple dye. But in truth, they traded in something far rarer, knowledge. They were the keepers of the geometries that build worlds, the navigators of unseen currents, the translators of the cosmic language. Their ships were not merely vessels of commerce, but temples upon the water, each voyage a ritual reenactment of the journey from their world to the blue. Every sail they raised echoed the banners of a lost realm. Every port they reached became a node in a network of influence that spanned continents and millennia. Conventional historians treat the Phoenicians as a footnote, a maritime footbridge between the empires of Egypt and Greece. But if you follow their trail of symbols, the fire cross, the white horse, the swastika-turned sunwheel, you begin to see their true scope. They founded colonies not only along the Mediterranean but far beyond it, reaching the shores of Britain, Iberia, and even the Americas. In their wake rose new cultures that bore the same gods under different names, the same rites masked by local tongues. From their stronghold at Tyre, they sailed west with maps of the stars and instruments tuned to the harmonics of Earth's magnetic grid. They settled in places where the energy lines converged, points of resonance that amplified their rituals. There, they raised standing stones and circular temples that mirrored the geometry of the heavens. These were not primitive monuments, they were tuning forks for the planet's consciousness. Their influence shaped the mysteries of Egypt, the megaliths of Albion, and the legends of Atlantis remembered in whispers. To the uninitiated, they appeared as scattered tribes with similar myths, To the few who understood, they were one continuous order preserving the science of divine architecture. Every symbol they left behind was a seed of intent. The cross within the circle, the lion, the rising sun, the dove, the serpent, each carried frequencies that spoke directly to the subconscious mind. Where the ordinary eye saw a picture, the initiate saw an instruction. Through these sigils, they programmed civilizations, embedding meaning that would survive even when memory failed. Their goddess Barati became Britannia. Their war god Bharat evolved into legends of St. George slaying the dragon. When their ships reached the mist-covered isles of the north, they carved the symbol of the white horse into chalk hills and called the valleys after it. They mapped Britain not merely for trade but for energy alignment. Every hill fort, every stone circle, every sacred well was positioned to feed the grid, a web of vibration they had known since the age of Mars. Centuries later, when new religions rose to dominance, these same emblems reappeared on royal seals, church banners, and national flags. The Cross of St. George became the emblem of England. The Fire Cross of Tyre turned into the Red Cross of the Templars. Even the Union Jack, layered in crosses of red and white, preserves the geometry of the Phoenician flame. Their language of symbols survived by adaptation. The ignorant bowed to the image, the initiated bowed to the meaning behind it. With them traveled the doctrine of the hidden sun, the idea that the source of power is not the visible star in the sky but the invisible energy it represents. They taught that the universe is a living grid of vibration, and that those who understand its rhythm can shape reality itself. Through ritual, sound, and geometry, they learned to open vortices where the ley lines crossed, doorways between dimensions of consciousness. This is why their temples and later their cathedrals stood precisely upon those nodes of power. To guard such knowledge, they built mystery schools, secret sanctuaries where initiates learned the science of energy, astrology, and creation. Over time, these schools evolved into the secret societies of later ages. The brotherhoods of Babylon, the priesthoods of Egypt, and finally, the Freemasonic networks that still trace their lineage to the builders of Tyre. The masses were taught parables and rituals devoid of context. Only the chosen few were given the keys, the understanding that the gods of stone were metaphors for forces of nature, and that every temple was a map of the human mind. When the Phoenicians sailed north and mingled with the Celtic tribes, their cosmology fused with local myth to form what would later be called the British tradition. The Druids, the keepers of sacred groves, inherited fragments of the old Martian Phoenician wisdom. They spoke of dragons not as beasts but as lines of power winding through the land. Their word for dragon drag is the root of dragon line, what the East calls the Chi Meridian. Thus, from Tyre to Tintagel, from Cappadocia to Cornwall, the same science persisted, the art of manipulating life force through geometry and symbol. In time, empires rose and fell upon the foundations the Phoenicians laid. The Greeks adopted their alphabet, the Romans their trade routes, the Christians their holy symbols. Yet the core lineage, those who understood, retreated ever deeper into secrecy, moving their temples from mountaintops to marble halls, from stone circles to financial districts. By the time modern history began, their presence was invisible, but their influence absolute. Because the bloodlines survived through the ages, they needed new masks for every era. When the old gods faded, they cloaked themselves in theology. When monarchies fell, they hid within banking. When revolutions came, they financed both sides. But their creed never changed. Control the flow of knowledge, and you control the fate of worlds. This is why so much of human history seems to repeat itself. The same wars, the same symbols, the same empires rising and falling under new names. It is a script written long ago by the descendants of Tyre. They weave the drama of civilization like playwrights staging endless acts for an audience that forgets it, watching a performance. Even today, the maritime symbols of the Phoenicians, the anchor, the trident, the compass, appear on corporate logos, naval flags, and international banking emblems. The crossed flags of global shipping companies echo the twin masts of Phoenician galleys. The winged disc above government seals is the same solar sigil carved into their ancient coins. The empire of symbols never ended. It simply went digital. Within their race, there existed hybrid lineages, families who carried not only the genetic memory of Mars, but also the metaphysical capacity to manipulate human consciousness. These families interbred across centuries, merging into the royal houses of Europe and the priestly orders of the Near East. They were the shepherds of empire, the keepers of ritual, and the architects of religion. From them would later descend the Merovingians, the Pisos, and the illuminated orders that governed behind the veil of monarchy and church alike. It was through these lines that the Martian inheritance flowed unbroken. And as they multiplied, so did their structures of control, secret societies that kept the sacred knowledge at the top and ignorance at the base, forming a living pyramid of power. At the apex, the initiates communed with forces they called gods, energies remembered from another world. At the base, the masses were taught to worship the same forces in ignorance, never realizing that the altar and the throne served the same masters. By 3000 BC, Phoenician influence had reached the Atlantic and beyond. They opened tin mines in Cornwall, traded with tribes across Iberia, and left artifacts in places that official history refuses to acknowledge. Carvings in New England, scripts in the Americas, relics in the deserts of Australia. Each discovery, though dismissed by academia, whispers the same story, an unbroken current of knowledge flowing westward, awaiting rediscovery. When you trace that current through time, you arrive at the Templars, the Rosicrucians, and eventually the modern Illuminati, the descendants of the same navigators who once sailed under the banner of the Fire Cross. Their empire is no longer carved in stone or bound by borders. It is woven into belief itself. Their symbols hang in cathedrals, flutter on flags, and flash in corporate logos, reminding those who can still see that the architects of history have never relinquished their tools. The city of Tyre eventually fell to conquerors, but the spirit of its builders survived. It migrated into the priesthoods of Egypt, the academies of Greece, and the secret councils of Rome. There it merged with new forms of power, political, financial, and spiritual, ensuring that the Martian-Phoenician thread would never be broken. From Tyre to London, from Babylon to Washington, their temples stand aligned on the same energetic meridians. The stones may change, but the blueprint remains the same. They are constructing not merely cities, but circuits of influence. A planetary network through which thought, belief, and emotion can be directed like currents of electricity. This is the hidden empire, an architecture of power built not of brick and mortar, but of vibration and symbol. And its roots reach back to the red sands of Mars. Long before the rise of any empire, before kings claimed divine right or priests promised salvation, the Earth herself was seen as alive, a sentient being pulsing with invisible rivers of energy. The ancients called it the breath of the goddess, the dragon's current, the serpent's path. Modern science calls it the geomagnetic field. Whatever the name, it is the same truth. The planet is a living, vibrating organism, and everything upon it dances to her rhythm. They knew the land had veins, streams of subtle power flowing through rock and soil like light through crystal. Where these lines crossed, the ancients felt the air shimmer. They called these intersections vortexes, gateways where heaven and earth touched. It was upon these sacred nodes that they raised their temples, pyramids, and stone circles, not as superstition, but as technology. Each monument was a tuning fork, a harmonic engine designed to align human consciousness with the frequency of the planet itself. From the Nile to the Andes, from the temples of Angkor to the stones of Avebury, the pattern is the same. The shape, the angle, the geometry, all calibrated to the rhythm of the cosmos. They understood that form is frozen sound, that matter itself is vibration crystallized. To them, building a temple was not architecture. It was an act of resonant engineering, tuning Earth's body to the music of the stars. This sacred science, known to the mystery schools of Atlantis and Sumer, passed through generations until it was inherited by the Phoenicians, mariners who carried not just trade goods, but the lost wisdom of the gods. Guided by intuition and magnetism, they navigated the planet's invisible grid as if it were an ocean of light. Wherever they landed, they built monuments that mirrored celestial patterns, reweaving the Earth's energy web into one vast global network. When the Phoenicians reached the Western Isles, they recognized the region as a luminous heart of the planet. The British Isles hum with convergingly lines, the planet's heart chakra, radiating energy to the world. They carved white horses into chalk hills, erected standing stones at Avebury and Stonehenge, and aligned every site to the solstices and stars. These were not random constructions, but nodes of consciousness, amplifiers linking human emotion to the planetary field. Drumming, chanting, and dance completed the circuit, joining the people's energy with the pulse of Gaia herself. Humanity once lived in communion with the earth. The seasons were her breath, the stars her heartbeat. But as empires rose, reverence turned to exploitation. What had been used to heal became a system of control. Ambition replaced harmony. The guardians of knowledge became its jailers. Those who understood the science of vibration realized that whoever controlled frequency could control perception, and thus reality. The ancient bloodlines, believing themselves descended from divine origin, monopolized the grid. They built temples on the vortex points not to harmonize energy, but to harvest it. The priesthoods of Babylon, Egypt, and later Rome turned sacred resonance into hierarchical technology. Bells tuned to specific frequencies shaped emotional states. Incantations became hypnotic codes. Geometry became programming. The same pattern repeated through the ages. Cathedrals replaced stone circles. Crosses replaced spirals. Spires replaced obelisks, yet all were built on the same sacred sites. London, Paris, Rome, Washington. Every capital of empire was laid out with geometric precision, aligned to solstices and constellations. To the uninitiated, this was coincidence. To the architects, it was ritual, the encoding of control through geometry. Each cathedral became a resonator. Its vaulted ceilings and stained glass acted as chambers of vibration. The spires drew energy upward, the domes captured it, inverted it, and sent it back into the ground, encoded with ritual intent. Every chant, every sermon, every mass was a frequency broadcast into the planetary field. The worshippers thought they were offering devotion to heaven. In truth, their emotion was being harvested, redirected into the hierarchy above them. To rule a species, one need not use chains or swords, only frequencies. Keep the population vibrating in fear, guilt, or submission, and they will remain trapped in a reality of limitation. Fear vibrates low and heavy, love vibrates high and free. The rulers learn to weaponize vibration itself, turning the planet into a resonator of obedience. This was the true war of the ages, not fought with armies, but with energy. The architecture of empire was the architecture of entrainment. The city of London, built over ancient mounds, became the financial heart of the grid, the energetic inversion of what was once the Earth's heart chakra. From there, lines of power extended outward to Paris, Rome, Washington, Jerusalem, forming a network of control that mirrored the ley lines beneath the surface. It was a planetary ritual cast in stone and steel, repeating the pyramid again and again. Yet the Earth, ever patient, remains neutral. Her energy can enslave or liberate, depending on the consciousness that wields it. The same currents that transmit fear can transmit awakening. When enough humans remember, the grid retunes itself. Every heart that vibrates incoherence sends ripples through the web, dissolving the programming of separation. Modern science, reluctantly, is rediscovering fragments of this truth. Quantum resonance, cymatics, Schumann frequencies all point to the reality that the universe is vibration. Emotion is frequency. Thought is waveform. Consciousness shapes matter. The ancients did not guess this, they lived it. When you walk through an ancient temple or stand within a stone circle, the air itself feels alive. These sites remember. They still hum with the frequencies of intention left there thousands of years ago. The Freemasons and secret orders who inherited fragments of this science encoded it into their symbols: the compass, the square, the eye, the golden ratio. Geometry was their silent language of power. But what they once used to enslave, humanity can now use to awaken. The key lies in awareness. Energy follows attention. The moment we withdraw belief from fear and redirect it toward unity, the entire frequency of the planet begins to shift. The architecture of control loses coherence because its foundation, collective ignorance, collapses. Imagine the Earth once again glowing with golden filaments of light, each sacred site humming in resonance with the next, a network of remembrance connecting humanity to the cosmos. This is not fantasy, it is restoration. The same lines that once powered empires will soon pulse with compassion. The same nodes that broadcast control will radiate freedom. This is why truth is always silenced, why awakening is ridiculed, because the rulers know that once the collective frequency rises beyond fear, their system can no longer function. The illusion disintegrates under the vibration of awareness. Every awakened soul becomes a node of light in this planetary field. Every act of consciousness ripples outward, eroding the frequency of domination. And as this light grows, the old structures, the churches, the towers, the monuments of control, begin to tremble. They no longer resonate with the new harmonic. Their geometry, once tuned for hierarchy, begins to crack. The ancients foresaw this moment. They called it the return of the sun. Not a physical event, but a spiritual one. The rebirth of human consciousness after millennia of darkness. The same solar force once worshipped in distorted form now rises within humanity itself. The sun, long externalized as a god in the sky, is recognized once more as a divine light within every heart. The earth is awakening, and through her, so are we. The grid that once enslaved will soon liberate. The song of Gaia, silenced for ages by ritual control, is beginning to sing again. And as her vibration ascends, the illusion of separation dissolves like mist before dawn. The lost science of vibration, hidden beneath temples, encrypted in geometry, guarded by secret orders, was never meant to belong to a few. It belongs to all who remember. The time of control is ending. The age of resonance has begun. As empires rose and fell across the ancient world, one question obsessed the ruling priesthoods: how to control not just territory but the mind, how to bind entire populations to a belief system so deeply that they would police themselves. By the dawn of the first millennium, the Phoenician legacy had woven itself into Rome's commercial and spiritual bloodstream. The merchants of Tyre had become the patricians of the empire. The priesthoods of Babylon had merged with the colleges of Rome. The architects of empire now spoke Latin, but their inner language was still the code of the ancient orders. The same esoteric science of vibration, symbol, and energy that had once mapped the Earth's grid. They understood a truth that most of humanity had forgotten. Belief is the most potent form of energy exchange. Convince a soul to surrender its perception, and you need no armies. The empire's greatest conquest would not be military, but spiritual. And so, when the teachings of a humble mystic from Galilee began to spread among the oppressed, preaching love, forgiveness, and the kingdom of heaven within, the old order recognized both a threat and an opportunity. The words carried the vibration of liberation. They reminded people of their divine connection, of a power that transcended temple, tax, and throne. Such a message could not be allowed to evolve freely. The empire needed unity, and unity required standardization of belief. Thus began one of the most profound manipulations in human history, the syncretic corruption of Christianity. When Constantine rose to power in the early 4th century, the Roman world was fragmented by hundreds of cults and sects. The emperor, a strategist above all else, saw in Christianity the potential to unify the masses under one symbol, one God, and one authority, his. But the Christianity he endorsed was not the living mysticism of the Christ. It was a carefully engineered fusion of older religions, designed to maintain the energetic hierarchy of empire under a new name. The Council of Nicaea, convened in 325 CE, marked the moment the spiritual revolution became a political tool. There, under imperial supervision, bishops debated the nature of divinity, the composition of scripture, and the very identity of the Christ. The outcome was not spiritual truth, but political convenience. From the many gospels circulating, some mystical, some historical, some symbolic, only a select few were canonized. Texts that taught self-realization, reincarnation, or the divine feminine were declared heresy. The rest were burned or buried. The wisdom of Gnostic teachers, who saw Christ as an inner state of consciousness, was erased in favor of a literal savior whose authority could be mediated through priests and emperors. The message shifted from "the kingdom of God is within you" to "salvation exists only through the institution." This was not an accident. It was a deliberate matrix perpetration, an energetic redirection of devotion from the inner self to the outer hierarchy. Humanity's connection to the divine was rerouted through a chain of command. The Roman sun cult of Mithra, long favored by the military, provided the blueprint. Mithra's birth on December 25th, his 12 followers, his death and resurrection, all predated the Christian story. Even the title Son of God echoed the earlier Son of God. The empire's priests, inheritors of the ancient Phoenician and Babylonian orders, merged these motifs to create a seamless hybrid faith that would feel both familiar and authoritative. The new religion absorbed symbols from Egypt, the cross of Osiris, the mother-child icon of Isis and Horus. From Persia came the dualistic struggle between light and darkness. From Greece came the philosophical framing that allowed mystery to be codified into doctrine. Christianity, as it emerged under Constantine, was not born in purity but forged through syncretism, a deliberate fusion of older solar religions repackaged as divine revelation. Temples of Mithra became churches of Christ. Festivals of Soul. Invictus, the unconquered sun, were named Christmas. Pagan rituals of spring fertility became Easter. The names changed, but the energetic architecture remained. The same sun worship that once honored cosmic cycles was now masked as worship of the sun. And the same ancient bloodlines who'd long ruled through symbol and energy took their places within this new structure, now wearing the robes of bishops and popes instead of kings and priests. The empire had found its perfect vessel, a religion of control disguised as salvation. Through confession, they learned the secrets of every citizen. Through fear of sin, they bound the human psyche. Through guilt and sacrifice, they drained the life force of generations, directing that energy into the matrix of hierarchy. The ritual of communion, once symbolic of unity with the divine, became a ritual of dependence on the institution. The architecture of power mirrored that of the old world. Cathedrals rose upon the ley lines of the earth, built on the ruins of pagan temples. Their spires acted as tuning forks, channeling planetary energy into the church's ritual system. The ringing of bells at specific hours entrained communities into vibrational obedience, marking time according to ecclesiastical rhythm rather than nature's. The Bible itself, translated and edited under imperial supervision, became a coded document, a blend of genuine revelation and deliberate misdirection. While many passages carried the timeless essence of love and awakening, others reinforced submission and hierarchy. Render unto Caesar, fear God and honor the king, obey those who rule over you. These were not words of the awakened Christ, but insertions of empire. Over centuries, this hybrid faith spread like fire across continents. Missionaries followed armies, carrying crosses and contracts in equal measure. Temples of local gods were demolished or rebranded. Indigenous wisdom, which saw divinity in every tree and river, was crushed beneath the doctrine of one remote male deity. The feminine, once revered as the embodiment of creation, was demonized. The serpent, symbol of knowledge and kundalini energy, was recast as Satan. Through this inversion, the empire succeeded where armies alone could not. It colonized the inner world, the realm of thought, feeling, and spirit. The priests of Babylon had once manipulated the stars. The priests of Rome now manipulated the soul. The same lineage of control continued, hidden behind sacred words. And yet, even within this distortion, the original current of truth could not be entirely extinguished. Mystic sects, hermetic teachers, and visionaries kept the flame alive. From the Gnostics of Egypt to the Cathars of southern France, from the Sufis of the desert to the mystics of Ireland, the living Christ, the consciousness of divine unity, continued to whisper beneath the noise of doctrine. That whisper is awakening once more. For what was hidden to enslave can now so be revealed to liberate. When we recognize how religion was engineered to replace inner knowing with external authority, we break the spell. The energy once channeled into guilt and obedience returns to its source, the awakened self. The same structure that enslaved can be inverted. The cross, once symbol of suffering, becomes the intersection of spirit and matter. The church, once the house of fear, becomes the temple of awareness. And the Christ, once externalized into unreachable perfection, returns to the heart of every living being. The ancient bloodlines sought to trap humanity within a faith that served their order, but the design has failed. Awareness rises. The scriptures are being reread not through fear, but through consciousness. The codes embedded by empire are dissolving in the light of comprehension. The realization spreads. The kingdom of heaven was never elsewhere. It was always here, waiting within, beneath the rubble of centuries of deception. And as humanity remembers, the structure built upon falsehood begins to shake. The great temple of control trembles not from rebellion, but from understanding. The same power that once built cathedrals of domination will soon build sanctuaries of truth. For the spirit of the Christ, the universal consciousness of unity, was never the property of empire. It belongs to all. And in that remembrance, the ancient spell breaks. The rulers of every age have known that power is not simply exercised. It's encoded into the very patterns of our world. Cities, monuments, and national emblems all speak a secret language few are taught to read. Throughout history, secret orders have cloaked themselves in this ancient symbolism. The pyramid, the all-seeing eye, the torch, the obelisk. Each is not merely decoration, but a frequency, a transmitter of control. These are not coincidences, but codes from civilizations who understood how geometry channels energy. The great capitals of the modern age were never designed at random. Their streets and monuments align with cosmic cycles. Their obelisks and arches resonate with celestial geometry. Paris, Washington, London all bear the marks of a hidden order that inherited the ancient priesthood's understanding of planetary energy. From the Arc de Triomphe to the Washington Monument, from St. Paul's to the Capitol Dome, the same solar symbolism repeats: the sun rising above the horizon, the torch of illumination, the circle, and the cross. These are the emblems of those who believe themselves to be the keepers of hidden light. They call themselves illuminated, but their illumination is one of control, a fire stolen from the gods and used not to liberate, but to rule. The symbol of the flame, born from the myth of Prometheus, has become the banner of those who claim divine authority through knowledge. The Statue of Liberty, gifted by secret initiates from France, is not simply a monument to freedom. It is an esoteric declaration, a torch of the ancient order, a reminder that even the new world was seeded by the old. Look closer, and you see the same torch above the graves of presidents, the same fire held by modern idols, the same obelisks rising in the centers of power. From Egypt to Paris, from Rome to Washington, the same design unfolds. The same message encoded across time. We are the keepers of the light, and you are to remain in its shadow. Everywhere, their architecture speaks to those who understand the code. Even the killing of leaders and the erection of monuments follow this language. When a president fell in Dallas, it was not only a political event, it was a ritual. The place, the geometry, the alignment, all mirrored ancient sacrificial traditions. The torch lit upon his grave, the obelisk erected in his honor, and the city's hidden design whispered the same ancient message: the flame remains with us. From Babylon to Rome, from the Templar fleets to the financial towers of London, the same families have guarded this pattern. They built temples on vortex points, cathedrals over sacred intersections of energy, and monuments that align with the solstices. The geometry of their cities is a living sigil, a way to bend the collective frequency of humanity into submission. But geometry can serve both the light and the dark. What has been used to enslave can also awaken. When the same patterns are understood consciously, when humans reclaim their awareness of energy, symbol, and vibration, the architecture of control becomes the architecture of liberation. The invisible empire depends on secrecy. Its rituals and geometry only hold power while humanity sleeps. The moment we see, the spell breaks. The illusion of authority collapses because its power was never real, only borrowed from the faith of the unaware. And now, as the cycles of time turn once again, that awakening cannot be stopped. The old geometry trembles, the symbols lose their dominance, and the torch once used to deceive begins to illuminate truth instead of shadow. The architecture of control is crumbling, and in its place a new pattern is forming, one born not of domination but remembrance. The story you've just traveled through, from Mars to the ancient temples, from the corrupted religions to the monuments of modern power, is not just history. It is the map of our awakening. We are remembering what was stolen, the sacred knowledge that we are not separate, not powerless, not small. The same forces that once bent truth into control now stand exposed, trembling before the light of consciousness rising across the planet. The ancient bloodlines built systems of deception, religions to shape belief, economies to bind energy, and symbols to hypnotize the mind. Yet every one of those systems depends on our participation. Once we withdraw consent, the illusion dissolves. The matrix cannot survive awareness. The story is not about fear, it is about awakening. About recognizing that within us lies the same creative power the rulers tried to monopolize. We are the energy they harvest, the consciousness they depend upon, and the beings who will end their cycle of control simply by remembering how truly are. The torch they've carried in secrecy now belongs to us all. And when the light of awareness spreads through every heart, no monument, no hidden order, and no false god will stand. If this documentary resonated with you, please subscribe, like, share, and comment your thoughts below. This channel exists to unveil what was hidden, and every interaction helps the light spread further into the matrix they built to contain us. The awakening is not coming. It's already here, and you are part of it. Kindly subscribe to our channel